So this module will cover Standard 14, which includes requirements for student records and student services. Now, you may note that this looks familiar. It is designed to be a complement to Standards 6 and 7, which those standards included requirements for both institutional and programmatic accreditation. In addition, institutionally accredited schools must comply with these further requirements for student records and student services. There are 4 components to Standard 14, and they are student record management, the Satisfactory Academic Progress, or SAP policy, student services, and a student code of conduct. So let's take a look at each of these 4. Standard 14A is student record management. So these are the student files. This is often covered by the registrar's office. Key components include that you can keep files, either hard copy or electronic or both. But either way, there must be policies and procedures that have been written and published and comply with all laws. For example, FERPA, or any confidentiality laws, and that students have access to that. These files must be kept accurate, organized, confidential, and secure. And the language in the standard says that files must be secure from theft, tampering, water, and fire. So this would include both electronic and hard copy. So during the site visit, this is one of the areas that the reviewers will be looking to verify, is how your files are kept. In addition, Standard 14B covers the Satisfactory Academic Progress, or SAP policy. Now, the purpose is that there is an SAP policy developed because institutions should ensure that students are making steady progress toward graduation. And whether you have 3 students enrolled, and you can do that very easily, or you have 300 students enrolled and need a more formal policy, the SAP policy covers all of those instances. This is actually one of those things, if you are an initial accrediting applicant, that you may need to develop, because a lot of newer, smaller schools maybe not have something formal, but you do need to formalize this process. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. First of all, that you must have a policy that is published and then consistently implemented. That's always part of the verification process, is what's the policy, where do we find it, and then the reviewers will look to see if it's been used. There should be regular monitoring and assistance provided for the Satisfactory Academic Progress policy. Now, you can determine your own criteria on what constitutes SAP, what constitutes satisfactory academic progress by a student. The exception is if you participate in Title IV. Because there are federal monies involved, Title IV has much more specific requirements for how students are allowed to keep accepting funds, and Standard 15 does cover that. But even if you're not in Title IV, you do need to have an SAP policy. You just have more flexibility on what it covers. Although we do have some requirements, the standard says that your SAP policy must include these things. Now, how you do it and the criteria exactly can be changed. But you have to have something in there that looks at the quality of a student's work. So basically the performance in their courses. That can be done with GPA, but you don't have to. It can be a percentage. If you're not calculating GPA, maybe they have to have 70% satisfactory work in all of their courses. There also must be a denotation of quantity of time, so a qualitative measurement and a quantitative measurement, which is how much time they've been in the program. There's a max time frame. This is essentially if they're completing their courses and they're actually getting them done. Your policy must indicate clear increments of time when you are formally look at SAP. The minimum is not to exceed the midpoint. So if you have a 600-hour program, you must be officially looking at satisfactory academic progress at the 300-hour mark. But you can do it more frequently. Some schools, for example, will review SAP every month. Your policy must include the official actions that will be taken if a student is not meeting the criteria that you've set forth for satisfactory academic progress. Now, the Commission does not require that you terminate students. You do not have to kick them out of the program if they're not meeting SAP. You can determine what those actions will be, but they must be clear, and there should be an appeal process. Maybe they go on probation, there's a written warning. You can determine that. We do recommend that if this is new to you, you take a look at what some other accredited programs or schools have for an SAP policy. But again, it can fit your mission and philosophy. The exception, of course, being is if you accept Title IV federal monies, then Title IV has its own requirements, and those will be covered in the next module. Well, related to SAP, the Commission sees student services. So the student services that you offer for students are often directly related to their progress, and they can actually support their satisfactory academic progress. Now, the Commission has not outlined specific services that all schools must offer. The language in the standard states that the specifics of the services provided may be at the discretion of the institution based on size and demographics. You don't have to have a student services department with many people. These services can be offered by one person, by different people, but please do consider them. In fact, the language of the standard says that these services include, but are not limited to, some sort of academic advising, so that you're assisting students in their classes, or a tutoring academic support. That does not have to be free, it does not always have to be provided, but you need to be considering how you're going to help students, particularly those that are struggling. Placement services must be provided, and any type of non-academic support. This could be referrals to outside as well. But again, these are areas that come up that may impede a student's academic progress, and so you want to be thinking on how you can support your students. Reasonable disability accommodations is included, as well as any other services that may be required by your state. And lastly, Standard 14D, a student code of conduct. Now this is new for the 2015 standard revisions. It does not include the professional code of conduct. That's in Standard 4. That would be something that would mirror the professional organizations, for example. This refers to an academic integrity policy, so their behavior while they are a student. So no cheating, for example. You are free to determine your own policy based on your mission and philosophy, but it must be published, and it must also include the consequences of any student that violates the policy. That is an overview of Standard 14. We will look at more details in the course lessons. Thank you very much.